Welcome if you are new here. My name is Tiffany Elizabeth, and this is a no niche channel. If you want to see all things motherhood, I would go to the playlist on this channel where you can find all of those videos. Before we get started, I just want to mention that I am not a specialist, I am not a professional. Everything that I'm going to be talking about today is from my personal experience. I am a stay-at-home mom to 3 babies, and I breastfed all 3 of my kids. The oldest is 10 years old, and my youngest is 2.5. My ugly side of breast pumps was the expectation. I had like this expectation, some may call it even an obsession, where you just become like obsessed with breast milk. I would find myself obsessing over how much milk I had stored in my fridge. When I became a stay at home mom with my second child, I realized that I was with my baby all the time. I was home all the time. Baby was always with me when I went places. The only time baby probably was not with me was when she was with my husband, so I could like take a shower or have a break or whatever the case. Me becoming obsessed with having this huge milk stash was so pointless. Breast milk does have an expiration date, even in the deep freezer. I cannot believe that I went so crazy obsessing over how much milk I could store away, to the point where a lot of that milk got thrown away anyway because it went bad. There are videos out on YouTube that will tell you how to know like if the milk is spoiled and things like that. But you guys, I went crazy thinking that I needed this huge milk stash. Mind you, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so it's not like I had to be away at work or anything like that. I did produce a lot of milk. Me being able to even have extra milk to store away was a blessing, like such a huge blessing. But at the same time, a lot of that milk went to waste, and I could have saved so much time, so much of my sanity by simply just feeding my baby and going about my day, instead of being like, let me pump a little bit longer so I can store this milk away. Let me do this and do that. Another thing that I had experienced was this guilty feeling, which is so silly to think about now. If I used a bottle while pumping, then I was doing breastfeeding wrong, which is insane. Even if you exclusively use your pump and feed your baby that breast milk in a bottle, you're still breastfeeding. Like that baby is still getting breast milk. You're still providing your baby with that milk. So the fact that I felt guilty about giving my baby a bottle. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of women who breastfeed who do not give their babies a bottle, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you give your baby a bottle, there's nothing wrong with it. If you don't, there's nothing wrong with it. Y'all already know that in this world, everyone has an opinion on what they think is best, but you as a mother knows what's best for your child. Sometimes I would even feel guilty for using my breast pump. I'm like, nah, baby should just latch right on and drink the milk from the breast. You know what I mean? There were some days where I would like feel guilty for pumping, guilty for wanting to pump, because let's be real, when you are in the trenches of postpartum, there were moments where I was just completely touched out. Like, I loved my baby. I'm still going to feed my baby. I'm still going to do what I have to do. However, sometimes I just need a little bit of a break. So I would pump, give baby some milk, store some away. And that's kind of how I would like do it. I was still putting my baby on the breast, but we switched it up sometimes, especially like if my husband wants to feed the baby or needs to feed the baby. At least I knew that I had that as a backup option. I found that if I was to put myself in a position to where my baby did not take a bottle at all, it would be extremely hard for me to ever do anything without the baby. That's one thing I kind of dealt with. Another thing that I faced was the overthinking. I can't even say if you're a first time mom, because I promise you, with all 3 of my children, I had a different experience. You know what I mean? I'm naturally an overthinker anyway. So when I was breastfeeding and pumping and things like that, I would overthink every little thing, which would cause stress. It can cause your milk supply to be low. So one thing I would do was I would overthink breastfeeding period. I'm like, okay, has my baby had enough? Am I producing enough? Am I Like, I would just be all in my head about it. I would experience days of low milk supply, which I heard is normal. It just kind of means you need to either do a little bit more cluster feeding to get that milk back going. Talk to somebody who like is educated in this subject. But for me, I would experience like days of low milk supply, and I would stress about it because I would be like, oh my gosh, like I can't feed my baby today. Mind you, I got milk stashed in the freezer. Or I would stress about like, okay, if my milk supply is low, that means that my milk is going to dry up or I'm not going to have enough milk for the baby. I would just be freaking out over nothing. And I kid you not, by the time I got to my second child and I experienced that whole dip days, I would just relax, go about my day as usual. By like the next day or the next couple of days, my milk would be back on full rotation. One, I was stressing for nothing. Two, after speaking with my doctor, I found out that that could be normal. But three, I was stressing so much when I didn't need to be stressed out. Because I was stressed, it was causing the milk to stay where it was at. In my experience, my supply was always the best when I was able to get a little bit of extra rest, be a little bit more calm and relaxed and let nature take its course. So, another ugly side of the breast pump was the sanitization. You need to know how to properly sanitize your breast pump, because if you're using that pump and you're never properly sanitizing it, your baby can get sick. Mind you, already did the research. I already knew what I needed to do, but for some strange reason, I have like this obsession with looking up how long can the breast pump sit out? What's the proper way to sanitize it? How, like, can I put it in the fridge so that way it can kind of stretch out that whole washing process a little bit longer? I don't know about you guys, but when I was pumping and breastfeeding, it was clockwork. It was clockwork. So I was trying to find ways that I could kind of make the process a little less tedious. All the little parts and things that you got to take apart and sanitize and wash and scrub and all that, it was stressing me out at one point. There are so many options of breast pumps, and then it seemed as if every time I would open up my phone and get on social media or something like that, there would be like all these ads, all these videos talking about these different pumps. And I'm like, okay, which one is the best one? Which one am I comfortable taking out? I need a pump for upstairs. I need a pump for downstairs. I need a pump, 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 pump. Like, back to the overthinking, back to the like driving myself crazy for no reason. Like, I did not have to overcomplicate breastfeeding the way that I did. Everyone is different. Like I said, I have 3 children and I still feel like I learned something new with each child. So whenever I would experience a low milk supply, I would what is it called? Pump Power pump. I think it's called like power pump or something. But whenever I would experience days of a really low milk supply, I would do something called power pumping. And I would also breastfeed baby on demand, cluster feed, all the things to get my supply back up. So I would find myself pumping literally all day around the clock and still not see that milk pick up. It was extremely depressing. I was really determined to breastfeed my baby, and then it got to a point where I was like, okay, am I going to have to supplement with formula, which would stress me out again? Nothing wrong with giving your baby formula, by the way. I made a decision and I wanted to stick by it. So when it wasn't working out the way that I thought it would, I would beat myself up and I was just so hard on myself. And it just caused so much, yo. I was in the trenches, okay? I was in the trenches of postpartum around this time. If I could go back and do it all over again, I would just relax and enjoy the experience. The experience is supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be a bonding experience. And the fact that I overcomplicated it made it almost a nightmare. That is pretty much it for this video. If you like topics like this, again, go see my playlist and consider subscribing to this channel. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for listening to me yap, and I will see you guys in the next one.